You're listening to The Alien Observer. I'm David McElroy. Our society is filled with angry people right now. As I watch and listen to the people around me, I sense that more people than ever feel as though they have been pushed to a breaking point. Some of them aren't even certain why they're angry and why they're feeling so uneasy about the world. Even if they could point to political and social situations and economic situations that upset them, I think it goes deeper than that. I think that most people feel as though something is fundamentally out of control. And it makes a lot of people desperate to find something that they can hold on to, something that they can count on. Have you ever heard of the concept of existential dread or existential angst? I was thinking about this earlier today because I found myself feeling this way. I realized that that's exactly what I was feeling. To oversimplify it a bit, this is a feeling that existentialist philosophers say that humans experience when they have too many choices and they're filled with anxiety about having to take responsibility for their choices. When there seem to be no meaningful guidelines or rules by which to make those decisions or by which to live. To further oversimplify it, imagine what it feels like to walk down a path that's paved, and it's obvious which way the path leads. Even though you might feel as though you have the freedom to do whatever you want, the path is there to make it feel as though you're being led somewhere. You don't have to worry too much. The path is going somewhere. Now, let's say that there is no path. Let's say that you're in the middle of a field or a forest, take your pick. And everything looks the same for as far as you can see. Now you don't know where to go. It's harder to even know where you are. You feel more anxiety because there's nothing to guide you. Then let's take it one step further. Let's say that there is suddenly no gravity. You're simply floating in a void. You can go any direction you choose. There's no up or down, left or right. There are absolutely no limits on your direction. Your feet just float in the nothingness. You have nothing to stand on. You have complete freedom. There is nothing stopping you from going any direction you choose. But it's a nightmare, because you could go in any direction and you have nothing to stand on. You have nothing to help you decide where to go. I would like to suggest that Americans are feeling tremendous anxiety right now. Maybe the people in the rest of the world are too. I don't know. I just know what I'm feeling from my own culture. Existential angst is what I would describe it as, because we feel as though so much of what we have counted on in the past has been taken away from us, whether it's conscious or not. There was a time when most of us believed, probably wrongly, that elected political leaders were smarter and wiser than most of us. We trusted in the collective ability of those people to do the right thing and to keep us safe. Even if we didn't always agree with them, we looked up to them and had respect for the institution of government. It felt as though there was something stable there, even if we disagreed with the people who were in charge this week or that week. Today, government is like a clown show. Politicians seem like children who are whining and throwing tantrums and insults and acting like dictatorial fools. Now, I see all of them that way. although I know that many of you are going to reserve that judgment just for a portion of them. Overall, though, almost none of us trust these people to take care of us anymore. We feel as though the country has lost its way, and we feel as though nobody sane and wise is stepping forward to show any leadership. There was a time when most Americans turned to a religion to help set the rules for their lives. Whatever their faith was, people tended to become more religious in bad times, even if they didn't really change their overall behavior or what they were in their hearts. Most people felt as though they could turn to churches, synagogues, or some sort of house of worship to point the way to God. Today, more and more people say that God is dead. Worse, they say that God was never there, that we made him up. They see religion as a refuge for the gullible and weak. Most people aren't turning to God or to churches or to religious communities for comfort in these uncertain times, because the culture has spent decades tearing down religion. So who do we trust today? Who do we collectively want to listen to? The news media? Those self-satisfied clowns on television? Entertainers? Singers? Professional athletes? Police? Everybody has some reason to feel angry with somebody or some group of people. And more of us feel as though there's nobody to trust. Nobody we can count on. Nobody who can provide the stability that we so desperately need right now. I read today that only 52% of Americans are employed right now. The rest are either officially unemployed or else they're out of the job market entirely, so they're not even counted. There are millions of people feeling desperate, and they don't feel as though they have anyone to count on. Is it any surprise that they're feeling existential angst, the horrible feeling of dread that there is nothing good they can do to give their lives a better outcome, to give their lives meaning? Human beings who face chaos almost always have a hunger for order and predictability. That's why they want to be able to turn to God and to political leaders. It's why they're so prone to turning to dictators, people who have authoritarian points of view in bad times. It's why they need close friends more than ever. It's why they suddenly crave a solid and dependable partnership of love in a deeper way than before. All of a sudden, people feel as though anything might happen. And they don't feel that they can count on anything. They crave something to let them feel as though things can be predictable again. In the midst of a world that feels out of control, they crave someone who will tell them what's true and what they should do. A world without someone who will tell them what they should do and give them order and give them predictability fills them with existential dread, because they have no idea what to do. And there's nobody there to help them understand which way they ought to go. If you'll stick around after this quick break, I'll be back with more. When I launched my first podcast, I took a friend's recommendation about which hosting service to use. He told me that Anchor.fm was the only one that I ought to consider. And it turns out that he was right. I had such a great experience with the free Anchor service that I'm also using it for this second podcast too. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. And best of all, it's free. I don't know how they do it, but it's free. I record and edit my podcasts on my own MacBook, but Anchor even has tools to allow you to record straight into a web browser, or even your mobile phone if you're not ready for the challenge of doing your own recording. Anchor will handle all the distribution of your podcast too, getting it into all of the major podcast directories such as Apple, Google, and Spotify. They even have a plan by which you can run ads if you want, but you're not required to if you don't want to. Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. I can't tell you how to find the security that you need, the emotional security. I'm struggling to find it for myself. But I'd like to suggest that the answers lie somewhere other than where most of you seem to be looking. I talked with you recently about why the outrage machine is so dangerous to you and to me and to society in general. But I realize that most people aren't going to listen to me. I see my friends online screaming at each other on social media platforms, and I see them eagerly sharing outraged stories from the media, which they believe will somehow prove that they are right. They feel as though the world is so out of control that they're desperate to show other people this is the way things ought to be. And I understand because I have felt that same instinct. But I want to tell you two things about this. First, you're not changing anybody's mind. If they are on Team Red, they can't see what seems obvious to you. And if they're on Team Blue, they're just as blind. All of us seem certain that other people will somehow come to agree with us if we will just shout our views at them a little louder. But it doesn't work. Second, you're destroying yourself if you're doing this. If you are locked into the daily social media battles, as so many people are, so many of my friends, so many people I care about, determined to make people see your point of view, your anger is probably doing more harm to you than to anybody else. Your anger and resentment, even if they are justified in some ways, are like a corrosive acid that's eating away at you from the inside. Those things slowly change you in ways that you wouldn't like if you could see yourself from the outside. So what can you do to avoid feeling this existential angst? Especially if there's nothing you can do to change the cultural environment. Well, I can't say for sure what will work for you, but I'll tell you how I'm handling it. I am trying desperately to disconnect more and more from the things which cause me anger and anxiety. I do not want to listen to angry people shouting at one another, even the ones that I might basically agree with. Their anger and their bitterness are poison to me. They're poison to you. So I'm spending less and less time on social media. I'm avoiding as much of the news media as I possibly can. I still post cat and dog pictures on Instagram, and I occasionally post something else when my better judgment is ignored. I guess that's the best way to put that. But I'm overall pulling away from the cesspool more and more. It's difficult at first because social media is addictive. But as you slowly get it out of your system, you increasingly wonder why you wasted all that time there for so long. Next, I'm trying to spend more time clarifying my own values and making sure that I understand the meaning of my own life. Having a meaning that is completely apart from this ugly culture can remind you that you can still have meaning even if the culture is breaking apart all around you. Even if the world is falling apart, you can have meaning apart from this world. And the more you understand what your life needs to look like, the more you can make changes to get rid of the toxic parts and add the missing parts. I find my meaning in love. When I don't have love, and when I'm not expressing love, I feel as though I'm lacking. I feel as though I'm off course. I feel as though there's no foundation underneath my feet. I feel as though there's no path before me. As long as I'm clear on the things I love, and the things that I am eagerly moving toward, it's easier to see the world as a beautiful place. And that's the real point. In a world where everybody is connected to everybody else at any given moment, where you can know what everybody is saying and doing and thinking, it's easy to forget that we don't have to fix everything. All we have to do is to carve out our own little piece of the world. We can admit to ourselves that we will never fix everything. We can admit to ourselves that it's not possible. We can admit to ourselves that we can't be perfect, that the world will not be perfect, that humanity will never be perfect. But we can build our little piece of the world around love and beauty and whatever values matter to us. We can make that little piece of the world a wonderful and loving place to live. Even if the rest of the world is falling apart, even if the rest of the world is living in the madness of anger and fear and hatred, you have a choice about what you focus on. And that will largely determine what your life is and what the lives of your children are. Choose wisely, and choose the things which will bring love and peace and joy to your soul. The Alien Observer is written and produced by me, David McElroy. If you'd like to get in touch, send me an email at davidmcelroy@mac.com. That's DAVIDMCELROY@mac.com. Or go to anchor.fm/The Alien Observer to record a voice response. Anything you send might end up on a future episode. There's also a donation link on that page if you'd like to support the show. For more about me and what I've written in the past, including thousands of articles over the last 10 years, go to davidmcelroy.org. Alien Observer is copyright 2020 by David McElroy. All rights are reserved on the planet Earth, but rights are still pending on the planets where the rest of the aliens live. Theme music is The Boy and the Kite by Solitude and is licensed courtesy of Soundstripe. The birds and crickets from the opening was recorded live in my own backyard. Please join me again next time for more observations about this strangely alien world that's all around us.